What is up, everyone? I am Kimmy Chex here, joined with two fantasy legends and very good friends of mine, Mr. Marcus Grant and Mr. Adam Rank. We are here to talk fantasy free agency fits for the running back position. I know we got some spicy takes. I want to kick it off with Mr. Adam Rank and Derrick Henry. Where is he going?
I would love to see him go to the Indianapolis Colts. Yes, I understand he played so well for the Tennessee Titans, but if I'm advising the Titans, I say you don't throw your money away on Derrick Henry. You've got to pay for a quarterback, whether it's Tom Brady or Ryan Tannehill. Whoever it is, you're going to have to pay big money for that quarterback, which means you're probably not going to spend as much on your running back. It's kind of like if your refrigerator breaks down and you're like, well, got to cancel the trip to spring training, which that might be a little bit too close to home. But anyways, the thing is, if I'm the Titans, I pay your money for the quarterback. I draft a guy like Jonathan Taylor. And if I'm Derrick Henry, then I go and make a spite signing and like, fine, I'll stay in the division. And I'll go to the Colts and play behind that awesome offensive line. I'll play with T.Y. Hilton. They'll probably have a new quarterback. It could be somebody like Phillip Rivers. And then you go out there, you got two revenge games going on. And I think that that's the way to go. And plus, the Colts, they have the second most cap space. So they can just throw around their money frivolously. They're like a kid that got a gift card at Christmas. It's like, let's go to Target. I'm getting slushies for everybody.
Okay,
but I don't know. Do they sell it there?
No, you need to come on. You've been to Target enough with your kids. You should know.
I should
All right,
know.
but isn't the saying if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of true with Derrick Henry? I have him staying in Tennessee. Marcus, what do you think?
Yeah, I think he stays in Tennessee. I mean, first off, like the Colts, it's interesting, but won't anybody think of Marlon Mack? He didn't do anything wrong last year. Now we're just trying to move him on out. Look, I think why would you want to leave one of the best run blocking lines in all of football if you're Derrick Henry? I think the Titans can go and franchise tag him, maybe not pay him what he thinks he could get on the open market, which, look, I'm all pro player, and that's sort of sad for Derrick Henry. But for the Titans, it's awesome. He can be the centerpiece of the offense once again. He can get over 1,500 yards on the ground. And maybe if they decide that he doesn't have Manos de Piedra, they can throw him the football occasionally. He catches the football. Suddenly he has even more fantasy value. And now we're talking about Derrick Henry as maybe a top 5 fantasy pick.
Ooh, I like that.
That's a big leap. That's why I say draft Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor can catch the football. That's what I would do.
I can catch the football. All right, but moving on. Let's talk about Mr. Melvin Gordon. Marcus, I want to start with you.
Well, I've been saying this from the midpoint of last season, once the holdout was over and he came back to the Chargers. Put him in Houston. Put him with the Houston Texans. Put him back there behind Deshaun Watson. They've got their quarterback in Watson. They've got their wide receiver in DeAndre Hopkins. Let's round out the trio and give them a guy who can be a workhorse back who can catch the football. It's what they thought they had a couple of years ago when they signed Lamar Miller, but that didn't quite pan out. Then Miller couldn't stay healthy last year. Last season, they tried to piecemeal it with some combination of Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson. You get Melvin Gordon back there. You don't have to worry about trying to platoon it. You can have a guy who can be on the field pretty much for 3 downs. And suddenly those RPOs look a lot more dangerous with Deshaun Watson.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but last year when Melvin Gordon was in the holdout, he was kind of toying with the idea of being traded to the Texans and saying, hey, that's something that I'm incredibly open to. Adam Rank, what do you think the best fantasy fit for Melvin Gordon is?
I really like the Houston one. That's a good fit. I'm not going to lie. I don't want to besmirch that or anything like that, but I kind of like the idea of him going down to Tampa Bay. And I think that when you look at that team, the way it's constructed right now, prolific offense, obviously Jameis Winston, 5,000 yards last season, and you bring in a guy like Melvin Gordon, who in this offense could play the role of David Johnson, what he did for Bruce Arians in Arizona. Then you start to look at that team, and as great as they were last year with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, and as good as they played, they didn't have that running game. And Melvin Gordon could be the guy that we wanted Ronald Jones to be all along. You go out there. Again, I know it's risky to sign a free agent running back. They might be able to draft somebody, but I think they'd go out there, settle it, get Melvin Gordon in there, and let's go.
All right, so rank Melvin Gordon you think would be the best fit for the Buccaneers. Marcus, you're going with the Texans. I kind of have a spicy take, and I don't want the Twitter world to come at me and talk about the Steelers' cap space, but I would kind of love if Melvin Gordon went to the Steelers. After Le'Veon Bell has left the Steelers, there's kind of been a void at running back. James Conner wasn't quite the guy that we wanted to fill that void. Yes, he was good in fantasy production, but probably not as good as Melvin Gordon could be for the Steelers. Now, if we get Big Ben back in Pittsburgh with a healthy shoulder, we don't quite know what he's going to be able to do. Melvin Gordon is a plug-and-play every down running back. Big Ben's back, you give it to Melvin Gordon, and he goes. So I know that's kind of like a fantasy world, speaking of fantasy
what we're
football,
doing.
That's what we're doing here.
and cap space, but I really do think that could be a really interesting fantasy fit. I don't know.
I'd like to change my answer.
So Twitter, remember I said,
I
I
love
know their cap space. Do not come at me, but my at is at Kimmy Checks. All right, let's move on to Kenyan Drake. Rank, I want to start with you. What do you think the best fit for him in fantasy free agency is?
The best fit, and not the one that's probably going to make him the richest, the best fit is Arizona. Stay with the Cardinals. When he left Miami, he rushed for over 600 yards. He had 8 touchdowns. Somebody hasn't benefited this much from leaving Miami since Burger King. And that's right. I needed to go out and know your QSR history. Burger King started in Miami. But this is the thing. He was a revelation. And I remember when he was traded, and everybody's like, oh, Kenyan Drake, he's a washout. This guy hasn't been good. They were playing the 49ers, and he goes out there and he crushes them. And everybody's like, what is happening? What is going on? And I think that magic that you captured with the Cardinals long-term ends up benefiting you. And I know that the Cardinals, they've got some dead cap room with David Johnson. You can't move him. It's going to stay on the books, and it's tough. And it's tough for these guys. I understand. You want to go make money. You want to go sign a big-time deal with the Lions or whatever. I understand that. But if I'm talking from a fantasy perspective, the best thing he could do is to stay in Arizona and keep it rolling.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Arizona's probably the best place for him. I think if he wants to maybe toy with some ideas, I could see in Atlanta or Kansas City or something like that. But Arizona, I mean, it's really where he broke out, right? I mean, it's obvious that, look, man, the Dolphins just weren't that into you, right? Every time it seemed like, you guys were making a connection, then they'd start seeing somebody else. First it was Frank Gore, then it was Kalen Ballage. Like, they just really aren't digging you like that. So he wants somebody that wants him, that wants to show how much they appreciate him. I would say the only concern I have about it next year is what happens if David Johnson comes back and is fully healthy and they start running kind of a rotation situation. It could be a weird platoon there, but in the meantime, look, man, I'm all in on Kenyan Drake in the desert.
The one thing that I think you could probably see with Arizona, if David Johnson is able to play, because last year when you watched the tape, like, he looked slow. Yeah. I don't know how he became a 60-year-old man all of a sudden, but it looked that way. But the thing is David Johnson could actually be kicked into the slot, and you kind of move some pieces around, find different ways, because when you got Christian Kirk, you got Larry Fitzgerald, you have David Johnson, you have those guys spread out wide, leave Kenyan Drake in the backfield and kind of run with it that way. I think that offense just gets a ton of snaps, continues to move the sticks. I think it would still be all right.
Now, you guys both said the Cardinals, but I do think an option that's kind of on the tables and around the rumor mill is Kenyan Drake having a chance for the Redskins if the Cardinals don't go after him, which I think could kind of be a really interesting fantasy situation. Now, they have Adrian Peterson, and as we all know, he is a dynamic running back and the guy that's very plug and play. No matter the age, he is like going after it, which we love, but I could see Kenyan Drake kind of sliding in there. Now, they do have Bryce Love and Darius Geis, but speaking of injuries, those are two guys that were not healthy all of last season. So I do think that if he went into the Redskins and he could double team Drake, Adrian Peterson splitting carries, it could be kind of dynamic and a really interesting fantasy situation.
Yeah,
so
we've seen Ron Rivera too, like, use multiple running backs. I mean, for those years in Carolina when they had Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams, he was not afraid to use both those guys. So it could be an interesting situation where they sort of platoon guys back there.
I know.
Chris Thompson's a free agent. Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know. It's a little spicy, but that's how I am. All right, now we are going to wrap up our running backs, but like I said, I'm Kimmy Checks. I'm joined with Adam Rank and Marcus Grant. We're talking our free agency fantasy fits. Make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel below, and you follow us at NFL Fantasy on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Until next time, we'll see you later.